I'm Terry Murphy, Executive Editor for Realty Times, Women in Business, Women in Real Estate, and my favorite, In the Men's Room with Murph. And one of the men we have in the room with us today is Michael F. White. He is the founder of Improve My Tomorrow Coaching. He's a mortgage coach extraordinaire, literally 18 years plus in the business, Michael. Would that be accurate?
It'll be 18 actually coaching and training, about 37 in the actual mortgage arena.
There are probably people not that old on this thing, so we're not going to go there.
I am sure, because I know I have shoes that old.
But you know, Michael, you've generated in more than $3 billion in loan originations within a year with your clients and customers. So you know what works. And you and I have been proponents of how the lender and the real estate agent can work together to create a better experience, to be more efficient, all compliant, loved, and safe, right? Because we don't ever want anybody knocking on our door. But one of my favorites and the most effective one, and even in something as crazy as the pandemic that we've had to deal with, it still works every time. And that is help us find a new neighbor. And that's an initiative that you and I did several years ago. So let's talk about that today. That's a great way to prospect in a very positive and new way.
Well, Terry, you know, a lot of what is old is new again. And a lot of the things that have worked in the past not only still work, but in many cases work even better than they did way back when they first started. And you know, I got my start in the mortgage business in the early 80s, and we talk a lot about, you know, that realtor relationship. And that was at a time where realtors controlled significantly more, you know, loan referrals than they do today. There was no internet. You really had either the realtor referral or an ad in the yellow pages. And now I date myself because half the people that I just, you know, who are on this don't have any idea what the yellow pages are. But, you know, my sister was a broker, and she was a very prominent broker. And she told me, if you want to generate really good referral relationships with real estate agents, be willing to roll up your sleeves and do the work with them. Help them do the things that they need to do for themselves. And well, what does that mean? Give me an idea. And she went through the whole process of, you know, what the realtors did once they got a listing. And it was, you know, back in the day, they would get the listing and they had to get that listing to the office and filed with the MLS by, you know, a certain day so that they could publish that listing in the listing book that used to come out once a week, right? And so they would tell them, before you got back to the office, go to the houses to the left, the right, and across the street from the house that you're listed, and knock on the door and talk to the people and let them know that you just listed the house for sale, and did they know anybody that might be interested. And she said it works very well because the neighbors tend to know people that have said, gee, I'd love to live in your neighborhood. I love this neighborhood. It could be a family member, it could be a coworker, could be a friend. But if you go and talk to the neighbors around the house that you're currently listing, sometimes you can find a referral of somebody who wants to buy that house, and you could double side that transaction. And so that was the crux of what it was. And she said, you know, and if you're willing to go with the agent, there are a couple of things that happen there. Number one, the agent feels more comfortable and more motivated because they've got some support. Somebody's actually with them. You know, and today it's almost like having a gym partner, right? If you have somebody that comes to your house to pick you up to go to the gym, you're less likely to say, maybe I don't go today, right? You're going to go. So the realtor is comfortable having a lender work with them because, hey, it's another body. It's somebody to talk to while we're walking up and down and knocking on the doors. But the other part to that is it helps be a third party, because sometimes people have questions when they say, oh, so you listed that house. If that house is selling for $200,000, I could get $250 for mine. It's kind of helpful if the mortgage person is the one that says, well, you know, without really having somebody go in and take a look, establishing value is kind of hard. You'd really have to have the realtor here go in and go through the whole process of looking at the house and running the numbers for you. But it's a possibility based upon what you may have and they don't. That third party endorsement, that change of the subject is because now the realtor is not the part saying, hey, use me. Hey, let me look. Let me tell you. Let me list your house. Let me tell you. Are you interested? No, we're not pushing the envelope. We're showing them how to get accurate information. So that's kind of how that went. And again, remember, we talked about, you and I have spoken about language and how certain words resonate. And so what I learned over the years, doing it myself and doing it with my clients, is sometimes when you knock on the door and you make them aware that the house is for sale, people are like, yes, so what? And they close the door. And so I'm always looking for a way to engage in a conversation, to say something that stops them from dismissing me and closing the door in my face, and looking for information, because that's always the key. You know, information, education, and options. We're not really doing mortgages. We're not really selling or listing property. We're providing a community with information. We're helping to educate them, and we're letting them know what their options are so that they can make a choice. If they don't want to list and sell, they don't want to buy, that's fine, but at least you have the information. So what did I, you know, we played with a few different things, and we finally came up with a series of phrases that really help. And it was, we'd knock on the door just like to let them know that the house was listed. But instead of just saying the house at 123 Main Street was listed for sale, we changed the conversation to, hi, my name is, and this is so-and-so, and the house at 123 just up the block from you is listed for sale, and Rachel Realtor here is going to sell this house for the most possible money in the shortest period of time. And we just wanted to let you know that the house was for sale, and give you an opportunity not only to have any friends or family members that you know be aware of that, but to have some input into what's going on. Because as you well know, you know, you could either engage in helping us find your new neighbor, or we can go out and find the person that lives there, and you might not like who we pick. And it's amazing if you just change that around to saying, hey, help us pick your new neighbor. Do you know anybody that ever expressed interest? Because it changes the part of the brain that they're processing this information. It's not about, I don't care that that house was listed to, you know what, I really do care who moves in. You know, I'd like to have people that have kids in the age group that my kids are. I'd like to have somebody who's interested in going fishing, or I like, you know, whatever. If you change that, it changes the brain, you know, area that they're functioning in. And sometimes they're not thinking, who said to me they want to buy a house, but who would I like to move into my neighborhood? Who do I know? If this person moved in from work, then we could ride together to work. Or if this person who's my friend, we could walk over and see each other without having to drive across town. You know, it's amazing how changing that conversation changes the whole dynamic.
And so and there are some areas, Michael, where of course you can't knock doors, but the mailer to get it open. And this, again, it's always about elevating to the new way people engage. And Just Listed and Just Sold was informative, and that was good, but it had no relevance to you. But when you say, do you know what your neighbors did last night? And then on the inside, it says, they're moving. 123 Main Street's available for sale. How would you like to help us find a new neighbor? And NAR statistics show that those 40 houses around that given property generally has someone who's interested in either buying or selling. So it's really hyper-local marketing that makes it work, and you can have fun with it. So I think it's a great idea that people want to buy leads when they could just go through the hot sheets every week and see what's listed, what went under contract, and what has recently closed. And you and I both know, I mean, there's only like one house in a given area and it's for sale. And if everybody wants to live there, there's more than one buyer. And so if you can help, if you can get a seller to work with you on help us find a new neighbor, because there's lots of other neighbors that want to, that want to buy there, you've got yourself some more buyers. And so it really makes good sense to have them, we talk about it, a co-author, right? Trying to orchestrate who they get to live next to them. And again, it's not about exclusionary, it's just about they're most likely someone to know that they'd like to have, that would like to be in their neighborhood. So this is a great process. Now, Michael, we actually have a podcast on this, which we'll share. I think we did it several years ago. It's the same concept.
Absolutely. Again, fundamentally, it's all the same. And in today's, like you were talking about communities, I live in South Florida. Many of our communities are gated communities. You're never going to get to go in there unless you're doing a specific open house or what have you. But today's day and age, so many things between social media, YouTube, neighborhood sites, use of video, sitting out there and go Facebook Live. I've got people who are actually out there, people who were afraid to do open houses recently, and they, with their loan officer, went out there and went Facebook Live. And we ended up having people buy houses or express interest in houses or ask, hey, how can you do this? Because here's the point. If you don't get out of the mindset of listing the house and throwing it on the MLS or, doing something like that, or giving it a website, you are competing in a marketplace against algorithms who process information 1 billion times faster than you can. So they're going to go to the algorithm or the person, and that information is going to be sold to dozens of different people in all sorts of different ways. How many times do you double side listings? How many times do you actually sell the houses you list yourself? And I don't have any stats on that, but I'd really like to find out, if you went back to the 80s, the number of agents that listed a house and sold it themselves and double-sided that transaction versus the number of times that happens now, there's got to be no comparison, because they're not thinking about, hey, I listed it and they're out of here, they're on to the next listing. And they're not thinking that for a few simple minutes, maybe an hour, going and talking to some people, you could make the other side of that same commission. Why not?
Well, not only that, but it creates that relationship, of course, with an area that you're working, because you're no longer just the realtor, you're someone that they know. And that's what this business is all about. It's building relationships that are not just one and dones, but are, that last. So Michael, I really appreciate your sharing your wisdom with us. I know that as a speaker, as a coach, as a consultant, you do lots of work. How would someone reach you?
Well, you can always go to the website, which is imtcoaching.com. There's lots of free information on there that you can look at, including some bits and pieces about things that we spoke about today. Email is always the best way to reach me. It's mike@imtcoaching.com. Just mention that you saw this, and I will get right back to you and be happy to have a conversation with you about anything that you'd like or answer any of the questions you may have.
Michael, you're always so gracious to share. Thank you so much for joining us here at Realty Times. I'm Terry Murphy. Join us again soon.